The hosts of bracketology are experts in nothing. They claim no advanced knowledge or profound insights. Instead, they are just three judgmental idiots who really like to bloviate their own opinions whenever given the chance. Take what they have to say with a grain of salt, or not at all. You'll probably be better off that way.
What truly, like in this, I'm being 100%, I don't even know if this is going to be a good cold open, but animorphs are real.
Animorphs?
What kind
like
of
from the books?
Fuck yeah. What kind
No, like from real life.
What kind of animal are you going to animorph into?
That's a legit question, because
this is.
There is a part of me that obviously wants to say some sort of canine, because as you both know, I bring the, golden retriever energy anywhere I go, but
runs into walls all the time.
All the time.
But you should see Dan when he gets the zoomies. It's adorable.
It only happens after I poop, but
he comes running out of the bathroom. Guys, I did it!
Yeah.
It flushed the first time.
I also like to make eye contact when I go number 2, like a dog.
He always sits and points to the north.
Like, realistically, I think I might have to go with some sort of bird, like a crow, which are probably the most intelligent of the birds. But think about how great it would be to be able to fly.
Did you ever read Animorphs or watch the show for the
No.
short-lived? So you keep your human intelligence. Like you are just you just transform into the animal.
So now, Dan would be a dumber crow.
Here's the rub though, is the rules, if I remember correctly, and Animorph freaks don't come at me. But there's only a certain amount of time that you can stay in the animal form. I think it's a few hours. Like, I think it's relatively low. And if you stay in it too long, you will be stuck as the animal.
I do recall that being a thing. Yeah.
And now, in the books, there is a character that can transform into a bird, and I believe it's a falcon, which is what I would want to choose. He gets stuck as the bird. It might actually be like a crow or something more like mundane. And then for the rest of his life is just a fucking bird.
Hold on. Does he retain his human intelligence when he's stuck? Oh, that would be like a nightmare.
Yeah, and can't speak.
You can only... Hold on, I'm looking at something real quick. You can only be in your animal form for 2 hours. Anything more than that, and you will be unable to return to your human form, and the morph becomes permanent.
Yeah, so demorphing, they may need to demorph back to human form between morphs. I mean, that's obvious. Only tight clothing can be carried around or carried over with a morph, so you'd have to wear some like skinny jeans.
I'm out.
Some animorphs may have DNA allergies that cause them to lose some control of their morphing ability. Anyway, I do think it's a bird for me. It's a falcon, because I agree. I would 100% want to be able to fly, but I also think that, like, especially, raptors are some of the best predators in the world. Like, flying, like, birds that prey on other animals are fucking tremendous. They're so cool.
So Matt's going to go around killing small animal.
Mm-hmm.
I am going, now that I know the 2-hour rule, I'm probably going to change back to like a dog or a wolf or some sort of canine, because that would absolutely suck to be coming close to that 2-hour mark and you are hundreds of feet in the air flying.
Well, you don't like involuntarily become a human again. Like, you have to choose.
No, but you have to land safely before you change back to a human. And if you're at like 1 hour, 59 minutes in 30 seconds and you're hundreds of feet in the air and you realize that your time is running out. Because I can't imagine that you have a stopwatch on your wing as you're flapping through the sky. So you're like guesstimating at best anyway.
That's true. I wonder if there's any kind of indication that you're about to hit that point. Like if you can feel it coming, you know?
There almost has to be.
I still feel like a falcon though. So I've been looking as we've been discussing this. The flight speed of a falcon is 240 miles per hour. So in a 2-hour range, you're getting about 480 miles. I mean, that's still like you could. It's not quite as far as I would like, huh?
I could traverse the world.
I mean, yeah, but it would still take you
2
some
hours
time.
at a time. And what would you do to cross an ocean? Like,
see, that's the thing.
Islands
yeah, but not in a 2-hour range.
and boats.
So you're going to fly out over the Pacific or the Atlantic or whatever and just hope that you see a boat sometime within that 2-hour range.
Or
because that's a big gambit, my guy.
Or I'll do what Dan said, and I'll just fly up really, really high, turn into a human, fall for a little bit, and then turn back into the bird and keep going.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is like how long, like there's no time limit, right? So you could be a falcon for an hour and 59 minutes, turn into a human, and then just turn right back into a falcon and reset your time.
For 10 seconds?
Because if that's the case, I mean, yeah, free fall for a couple seconds and then turn into a falcon again. It's not like you're going to be afraid of heights. You're a bird for 2 hours. Like,
oh, by the way, his name's Tobias, and he was a hawk. He broke the limit, and now he's trapped in the body of a hawk forever. Okay. I don't know. I don't know that part to it. All I know is that I'd go with the bird. I'd go with a fucking, like a falcon is cool, man. Scott, what are you going to be?
No, I mean, I'm 100% with you. It's the most practical one, right? I mean, even being where we are in Colorado, for 2 hours, you could fly most of the way over Kansas and then again, human and back, and then you can make it into Kentucky and then human and back. And like you could make it a good way. And especially once you get down into Florida, then you're talking, you've got access to the Bahamas and all that. Like you can just, again, it's going to be a good part of your day. But you're also going to get tired though. I'm just trying to think if there's anything more practical.
Well, and think about this, though. Like, all right, you fly to Kansas or you're in Florida and you fly to the Bahamas. It's not like you can carry a suitcase and with all your clothes and stuff. So, like, you know, you're going to be landing and the only thing you're going to have on after you morph back is skinny jeans, apparently, or some sort of spandex. And then you're going to be in that area with just that set of clothes. No toiletries. No, you know, does your wallet morph with you? Like, can you buy stuff once you get to your destination?
That's a difficult question to answer because in all of my memories of Animorphs, they were all children. So I don't think they had wallets. But I also think that they had bigger things to worry about than like going on vacation, like an alien race trying to take over the world. But
yeah, I don't have those concerns.
Realistically,
you know, I mean, maybe I go with something a bit more, you know, inconspicuous, like I don't know, like an insect or something of some kind, because then like I can use that to get into places that maybe like, Go ahead. I know what you're going to say. What? No, go ahead.
No, I'm legitimately curious.
So I see that's where I hadn't got quite that far yet. But I feel like there'd be advantages to being able to like get into somewhere that I'm not supposed to be to gain some kind of information I'm not supposed to have and then later use that. Apparently my mindset goes immediately to villain. Like I'm going to be nefarious with this, but I feel like an insect is the best way to be nefarious and then take advantage of it, you know?
So you would be the person that would choose invisibility as a superpower.
Oh, almost definitely, yeah. That or like mind reading.
Oh, you know? Fuck that. No, there's no way.
I'd have to have complete control over it.
Yeah.
I don't want to like a Mel Gibson What Women Want type of scenario where I'm just hearing them at all. No, I want control over it. But so, yeah, I think something like that, the practicality of it I like, again, thinking about the golden retriever energy. Dan's like, I think being a dog would be fun. And I'm like, we're over here like, birds practical, bugs practical.
Bird's cool as shit. I might have distracted myself
Are you now going down the Animorphs rabbit hole?
a little bit, but mainly I'm looking for adult, like not adult, but like grown up.
Animorphs Rule 34?
No, Animorph style things, anime, movies, etc. Also, there's so many goddamn Animorph books; it's insane. And I think that if this doesn't exist, we should bring Animorphs back as a grown-up series.
Like I don't know why I'm imagining this, but it's something like the Winchesters with the ability to morph into animals.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm here for it. And this looks cool as fuck.
So let me ask you this. Change your question a little bit. You wake up in the morning and you find out you have Animorph powers and you are super stoked. And then you find out what you morph into. What's the worst animal that you could possibly morph into?
A gorilla.
You're stuck in your apartment, unable to get out the door.
And then once somebody finds me, they'll just fucking shoot me.
Oh, Harambe, too soon.
Yeah, but
Harambe.
To me, it would be something like a squid,
Just a fish just in the middle of your living room.
You roll out of the bed and just...
Yeah.
Squids are incredibly intelligent, though.
No, octopi are incredibly intelligent.
Squids are also intelligent. Not as, because octopi have the same kind of neural network that humans do. But same with jellyfish too. Jellyfish are supposed to be very smart.
I think jellyfish would be pretty fucking miserable. Because then, like, your significant other or whatever, if somebody calls a wellness check on you and they get to your house and there's just a dried jellyfish. Your house is pristine condition and there is a half of a dried jellyfish laying on the floor and your dog has eaten the other half of it. Like that's what that reality becomes.
I got it. Mayflies would be the worst.
Don't they have like an 8-minute lifespan or some
minutes.
bullshit?
Yeah.
5-minute lifespan.
Oh my god! Yeah, all these things are terrible.
Oh my gosh! I have this great new power.
You just fucking die. Or a moth, and you just get stuck in a light.
So, one thing I would say for the jellyfish is that you could sting people, and the only way to make it feel better is to have somebody else pee on them.
If you
really hated somebody,
absolute pervert.
No, if you really hated somebody, you could hurt them twice by stinging them, and then having to have somebody pee on them.
Or
not if you're slowly drying up and dying on your hardwood floor.
I mean, there's also the possibility that you give them a full mental breakdown by stinging them and then turning into a fucking human and being like, now piss on it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bracketology, the podcast that definitively decides all things tournament bracket style. I am a co-host, Scott Grubb.
And
I'm the second I'm distracted. I'm the distracted co-host, Matt Robinson.
And I'm the third co-host, Dan Default.
We welcome you back as we continue yet again to determine the best Bob. This week, we continue going into, what did we say, the Elastic 8?
No. Entitled 8.
Entitled 8. This week, we continue into the Entitled 8. I don't like that. We can't call Bob Barker or Bob Ross or Bob Beal. That's just rude. Anyway, we're going to continue into the Entitled 8.
Elite 8. Let's just go there.
The entry-level 8.
Sure. This week, we will be debating personalities and actors. So where do we want to get started?
Where do you want to get started?
Sure, that sounds good. We'll go with, how about we start with actors this time around? We're going to start on that side. So our first matchup, what do we got?
Our first matchup, we have Bob Hope versus Bob Denver.
All right. Well, Bob Hope, got a fun name, Hope. Uh, Bob. If I just said Bob there,
He's got a fun name. Bob.
Bob.
We really enjoy saying it. Bob.
Bob, 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 Bob.
It'd be a nightmare for the
that's for our
bracketeers
counters,
counting.
yeah.
Yeah, for those
Versus
counting at home.
Bob Denver. Now, Bob Denver, I know I talked about this in the episode, the first round episode. Man, fucking Gilligan's Island was my jam.
Are you not going to point out that he also has a great name?
Bob Denver.
Bob.
Bob, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But also Denver, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Gilligan's Island was just so good. Like I every now and then, and again, I cannot reiterate this enough. I do not condone the bad parts of that. There is quite a bit of racism in Gilligan's Island. There is quite a bit of misogyny in Gilligan's Island, but it is fucking hilarious. Like, it's so good, and just the amount of things that you could get people to do on an island to quote unquote try to get rescued was all thanks to Bob Denver, and his portrayal of that character is just top notch, top tier. Top shelf, my boy.
Yeah, and it was only supposed to be a 3-hour tour.
A 3-hour tour. That was the lightning that starts with the storm.
I got it. I was there with you.
Man, what do
Man,
y'all think?
the reality of Gilligan's Island really highlights like a significant breakdown in process across a number of different organizations and agencies, doesn't it?
Well,
Like that boat on a 3-hour tour. 3-hour tour means it's an hour and a half one way and an hour and a half back, right? That boat's not getting that far in an hour and a half. So how this group of people got on a boat that was only going to go a short distance in the first place and in an hour and a half and then never returned, and it took them that long to be found and located?
Well,
Like,
I mean, to be fair, they were found, they were located numerous times, right? But generally, almost always, it was then met with some type of untimely decision, most of the time by Bob Denver's
Bob
character,
Denver.
Gilligan. Did I say Killigan? Gilligan. And like there was a point where the Japanese Navy was there. Astronauts were there. I think they were Russian astronauts, to be fair, or cosmonauts at that point. They met with a fucking band at one point that like just got dropped off by an airplane, and they were like, "We're here for vacation, man," and they're like, "Cool, take us home with you." And then the band was like, "No," and they just left. Right, so it's not. I think we have to give a little bit of credit to the agencies that did find them, met Gilligan, and said,
Nah.
"We're just gonna leave you here."
Well, and also your suspension of disbelief is kind of crazy because that show they also turned coconuts into a fully functional radio somehow.
no, I mean I get that, but I'm like, again, the marina or whatever that they departed from, the Coast Guard, all these people's friends and family, like, again, they couldn't have gotten that far in an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean,
How did they not?
I believe in the Gilligan's Island movie they kind of explain it, but it was also like
The 60s, man. There were a lot of drugs.
Everyone was
drugs.
too stoned to find.
a
Exactly.
lot of drugs,
Gilligan's
a lot of free
Island.
love, and a lot of really terrible technology.
Yeah. Do you know what makes it really hard to try to mount a search and rescue? Fucking acid. So that's probably had something to do with it.
Now,
So-
Bob Hope, on the other hand, yeah,
Yeah. No, I was just going to bring up Bob Hope because, as much as I did love Gilligan's Island, I think Bob Hope has a more expansive repertoire. Like, he was a very famous movie star. He had a show named after him. And although Gilligan's Island was named after Bob Dylan's character,
Bob Denver.
Bob Denver's character, it wasn't named the Bob Denver Show. He also had, the Tonight Show and all those appearances. And again, I go back to all of his work with the USO and his strong support of our troops. Um, so I think there's a lot to say about Bob Hope, and if I'm being honest, this is kind of an easy vote for me.
Yeah, I think it goes down to like, again, there's if you walk up to the person on the street, right, and you ask them who Bob Hope is, most people, not, I don't know about most, but you're going to get a fair number of people that are going to know. If you ask them who Bob Denver is, they're not. If you ask them who Gilligan is, sure, but that's not the same thing. It's Bob Hope transcended his character in that way. I feel like.
Y'all, there's a space version of Gilligan's Island. It was an animated series called Gilligan's Planet.
Gilligan's Planet, yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch this.
Not now.
Dan watched it when it was originally in syndication. What year did it come out?
It was
1982.
yeah, it was.
It was a hefty time after Gilligan's Island was finished.
Yeah, that is a significant window.
I mean,
there.
yeah,
Almost 20
I will
years.
say, to give Bob Denver some credit, I mean, he was an actor in 43 different things. Not all of them were Gilligan related. In fact, quite a few of them were.
Wasn't he in Castaway? Or not Castaway.
He was in Baywatch. He was in Fantasy Island.
Yeah,
he
Castaway.
played Gilligan on Baywatch.
Yeah.
Didn't he also play Gilligan on Love Island? Or not Love Island, Love Boat?
Where did it go? It was Fantasy Island, first of all.
Oh, whatever.
And it doesn't say. He was in 4 episodes, though.
Maybe
but
not.
I do think that speaks to... Look, I'm going to compare Bob Denver to a lot of other actors in that a lot of them get that one character, that one role that defines who they are as an actor. And he had that with Gilligan. And he turned that into a long, I would say, successful career.
And you respect that? You think so? That's of
If
merit?
I got a role as one thing and it lasted for more than 60 years, I'd say that's absolutely a plus.
I'd be okay with that.
But you guys voted down Pee-wee's Big Adventure during the 1980s debate, huh?
So do you want to get into the vote, Dan?
Yeah, I'm ready to get in the vote.
I mean, I'm going to go with Bob Denver. I think that
Wow.
my love for Gilligan is too high. I don't know Bob Hope the same way that I know Bob Denver, which is at all. So yeah, my vote's got to go to the Gilligan. The little buddy, got to move the little buddy on. Little buddy's got to stick together. One of you two want to go?
Are you? I was just trying to decide if you were calling yourself the little buddy because you're the shortest of us. I mean, there is a lot to be said. Again, I was surprised that Gilligan was on. What did we say? 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that character was such a household name and such a staple of.
If you want to talk about like cultural mainstays, like that is definitely up there.
But you have to keep in mind that even though it was only 3 seasons and it had such a high impact, that's because there were also only 4 TV channels at the time. So like there wasn't a lot else to pick from.
Yeah, but I think that goes in his favor because if you are somebody who gets picked to play in one of the 4 TV shows that exist, like you're doing something special at the time.
Yeah, but he's still known as Gilligan. I mean, Bob Hope and Bob Denver's timelines overlap greatly, and Bob Hope was known for being Bob Hope, even when there were only 4 channels. I think for me, again, the USO thing I think is also huge. I think for me, it's Bob Hope. Tiebreaker, Dufa.
Yeah. So look, we've talked about the cultural impact of both of these Bobs, and Bob Hope just has a bigger cultural impact. I understand, Matt, that you are not as familiar with Bob Hope as you are Bob Denver, but your familiarity with Bob Denver rests the majority of that is based on a character he played. Bob Hope was, although he played a lot of characters in a lot of famous movies, he also spent a large amount of his fame being himself, being hilarious, being a comedian. And that doesn't even take into account like all of the writing stuff that he did. And again, the USO impact. So Bob Hope moving forward.
Do y'all know the phrase? What is it? TV killed the movie star.
TV
Uh,
killed the radio star.
Is it TV
yeah,
killed the
TV
radio
killed the
star?
radio star.
Do you
It's a
think?
pretty famous song.
It's the
Or
first
no,
music
well, it's
video that was ever
video.
played on MTV.
Do you
Video
hold
killed
on.
the radio
Will
star.
you let me finish asking my stupid question?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Do you think there were any movie stars or radio stars, for that matter, that were actually physically killed by a TV?
I have no idea.
Up next, we've got Bob Saget versus Bob Hoskins.
All right, Bob Saget, America's Dad, versus Bob Hoskins, America's Mario.
Not anymore.
He will always be my Mario. That's not true. What's his name? Tom Martinelli
If you say so.
is really my Mario. Martinelli.
He was the voice of Mario.
What's his first name? It's Martinelli. I know that much. Anyway, Bob Hoskins. I mean, again, I would go back to iconic roles in a lot of ways that Bob Hoskins had. Like Who Framed Roger Rabbit is so good that it has yet to be rebooted or remade or whatever, because it was perfect. And he was the perfect person for that detective, that gumshoe, like Dick, as they call them down at the docks.
You just wanted an excuse to say dick.
He played Mario, right? Like he was in Hook. He's so good. With that being said, Bob Saget is America's dad, and not just that, is that when you get old enough, he becomes America's best friend.
Yeah. I mean, I have definitely considered using the tool belt that I have to carry cleaning supplies around the house, similar to Danny Tanner did, inspired by Bob Saget there.
And you guys make fun of me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also have told terribly dirty, raunchy jokes before, also in the same vein, inspired by Bob Saget. His range is just, I mean, you have like you said, the America's Dad. You have the affable and lovable host of America's Funniest Videos. You have the shock value of him as a stand-up comedian. Bob Hoskins just does not have the repertoire, I feel like, to compete in this category. Maybe against Bobcat Goldthwait, which he eliminated in the first round, but not against Bob Saget.
Daniel, what do you think?
I mean, it's a little tough because Bob Hoskins has been in some of my, especially Hook, dude. Like Hook is so good. I loved that movie when I was young. I wanted so bad. Do you remember when they're all sitting at the table
The food
and
fight?
they
100%.
imagine the food? I
watched
wanted
that
so
movie.
bad for that to happen.
I watched that
Was
movie
Bob
like
Hoskins
3
in that
months ago.
scene?
No, Bob Hoskins wasn't in that scene, and that is my point. Like, as memorable as his roles have been, Bob Saget has just done more. Whatever happened to predictability? The Milkman, the Paperboy, the evening TV.
Are you
Late night.
reading that?
Wait.
No, it's the evening TV. And no, I'm not reading that. That comes off the dome because of how much I watched Full House.
Full House
Bob
was never
Saget.
Full House was never my favorite of the TV shows. Even when I was young, I'd much rather watch Home Improvement or, anything, Boy Meets World, anything. But I still knew who Bob Saget was, and I mean, if you saw that man on a TV, you were like, he's such a good dad. That's what people wanted their dad to be, was their all the time. Like we grew up in a point where dads were very much, if available, working all the time and not always there. And there was a lot to that. But Bob Saget was like a role model, I think, for our generations, and that's what makes. I'm not saying everybody in our generation, but that's what makes people like Scott be a good dad. There was nothing else that could have done that except for the inspiration of Bob Saget. I love Bob Hoskins. I didn't even know he was in Hook, and I just watched that fucking movie. But I think that speaks to how well he can get into a character. That I never looked at him as Hoskins. I only looked at him as Smee, and I think that's impressive. But Bob Saget Bob Saget's the front runner in almost all of these categories. Like you could put him in any of them, and I think we'd be like, yeah, Bob Saget. I think it's hard to beat Bob Saget out. So, Dan, I don't know if that was your official vote, but I will throw out my official vote as Bob Saget. As much as I love Mario.
Look, everywhere you look, you look.
We're going to get copyrighted.
Bob Saget is getting my vote.
Scoopola?
Also Bob Saget, yeah. I mean, Bob Hoskins has really 3 credits anyone gives a shit about. And in one of them, he's like a secondary character at best.
Disagree with you on that, but
you're going to tell me that Smee is a main character of that.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I was like, you back the fuck up. Smee is a vital part of that movie. He definitely doesn't have Dustin Hoffman, Captain Hook, level, but he's third billed. Like it goes Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, Bob Hoskins, But Bob Saget moves on, rightfully so, and that takes us into our last category of the stupendous 16 to move on into the enigmatic.
I like an enigmatic.
Enigmatic 8.
We should really workshop these before we.
Yeah, it's almost like it's hard to get everybody in the same place at the same time to be able to talk.
It is a struggle. So, that's not true. We do that often. It's just typically we're playing Fortnite at the same time.
Sure. So Bob Barker, Bob Marley. Let's start there.
This is without question the most difficult division in this bracket. And this is the most difficult part up to this point of the decision making because these are 2 of the best Bobs ever in the history of humans to be alive. I mean, you can't underplay or overstate the cultural impact that Bob Marley has had,
on music, on Jamaican culture, bringing it into the forefront of our lexicon and what that looks like. And I agree with you.
And again, his songs are so good. But on the flip side of that, Bob Barker might not have had the most cultural or, that big of a cultural impact as Bob Marley. But damn it, if he didn't have an impact on me. I love The Price is Right. I wanted to play Plinko so bad when I was a kid. We all worked for the same company. And they used to have in the call center days events where, a company would come in and you could win a prize and do the Plinko thing. And that was my favorite because it was Plinko. And I loved everything about Bob Barker. I wanted to meet the man. His role in Happy Gilmore was amazing. Like, no cap, I was just looking at...
What?
Yeah, no cap. I was just looking at a putter cover that has Bob Barker punching out Adam Sandler, like, to buy because it looked awesome.
I don't think we could take anything Dan says seriously for the rest of the episode.
He's just trying to appeal to a younger audience. It's okay.
Exactly. I'm trying to broaden our audience.
While talking about Bob Barker is what he should appeal to. Now, here's the thing. I do agree with you. Bob Barker, very much I think, and I don't know his whole record because this is a very scientific podcast, but for someone who essentially had one role that he just, again, this goes back to my Bob Denver argument of being able to just make that his. It's somebody that everybody knows, especially considering The Price is Right is a very, if you were to take Bob Barker out of The Price is Right, right, and introduce it today, like the idea of The Price is Right,
You know, The
no,
Price is Right is still around,
yes,
right?
And
I'm
Drew
aware,
and
Carey.
jackass, but
Okay.
it didn't start here. It's been what it is because of Bob Barker. If you took him out of that and introduced The Price is Right today and tried to pitch it to any network, not a single network would buy that thing. Like it sounds like such a bad thing on its own, but you put Bob Barker and now Drew Carey into that role and you turn it into what has become a national celebration every single day at 10 a.m. Like that is something to look forward to when you're homesick from school. And I think that we can attribute that to Bob Barker 100%. At the same time, going back to what you said about Bob Marley, I think that he is a cultural icon, not just in his music and what he did for a living, but as a person and his philosophy and just the things that he kind of like stood for and lived life with. And I think that's important. It's hard to undersell either of these two.
I think as a typical uncultured American, I can only speak from my perspective.
Hard to
Um,
oversell. I just realized I fucked that up. Continue.
so I can't really speak to the worldwide impact and familiarity for these two. I suspect Bob Marley's is probably greater worldwide, but from a U.S. perspective, I mean, it certainly helped that Price is Right was on network television. Again, going back to my earlier argument with Bob Hope and Bob Denver, it also helped that it was at a time where, again, for a long period of time, there was only 4 or 5 channels, and then cable TV got introduced, and there were a few more, but there still weren't the like 700 channels with nothing on that we have today. So, yeah, I mean, I think everyone, it's like our age, maybe a little younger, but definitely skewing a little older, knows Bob Barker because you watched Bob Barker. Like you said, you're homesick from school, you saw Bob Barker. You're in a waiting room at the DMV. Price is Right is on. You see Bob Barker. He it was definitely a cultural milestone for our childhoods, and for like generations before us as well. I wonder if the younger generations now will have that same affinity for Drew Carey that we have for Bob Barker. I don't think they will, because they have so much more access, right? They have, again, hundreds of TV channels. They have YouTube. They have so much more media that they can pick from, that they're not necessarily relegated to watching The Price is Right like we were. So, like, I don't know, from a staying power perspective and from a global perspective, maybe Bob Marley's the stronger one in that aspect, because whether we like to say it or not, Bob Barker has kind of been replaced in that role. And gradually over time, that will become more and more true. But I think as a sense of a measurement today, and given the perspective that we can bring to it, Bob Barker was much more culturally relevant for us,
Yeah.
growing up until, I mean, even still today. I mean, I feel like it's much more culturally relevant from our viewpoint, from our perspective.
I think there are a couple things that I want to just throw out, and then I think we should get to the vote. But I'm looking at the always reliable Wikipedia for Bob Barker. Um, so he worked part time in radio while attending college. He 1950 moved to California to pursue a broadcasting career. He was given the Bob Barker Show, which was a radio show, ran for 6 years. He then started on a game show called Truth or Consequences in 1956.
Yeah, he got his first TV show before he owned a TV.
Yeah, the wildest part, he did Miss Universe, where he hosted for 20 years, and then Price is
Fun fact.
Right for fucking 35 years he was the host of Price is Right.
Do you know why he stopped doing Miss Universe?
I mean, based on the no.
So he stopped doing Miss Universe because they refused to take like fur coats out of it.
Mm.
If you've watched The Price is Right, you know that Bob Barker would frequently tell you to get your animals spayed or neutered.
Frequently being at the end of every episode.
But it goes much more like he loved animals and was a vegetarian from like way back in the 70s. And he stopped doing a very lucrative thing because of his stance on animal cruelty.
Yeah, I mean he spent most of his youth on the Rosebud Indian Reservation, so Native American reservation. Was a citizen of the Sioux tribe, Rosebud Sioux tribe. He joined the United States Navy Reserve during World War II. Like, there's so much good about this man.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, again, I don't want to undersell what Bob Marley has done and brought, but in literally the Wikipedia for Bob Barker, at the end of the introduction, it just says regarded as a pop culture icon. Like, that is called out because that's, how much there is about him. Bob Marley, I I think we all kind of know about the same amount. Oh, I'm sorry. Also, Bob was a widower. His wife died in 1981. He was a widower for 26 years. I'm sorry, 20. When did he die? He died in
2023.
Yeah, 2023. So long.
just
So long he was alone, never got remarried. Just, again, incredible. Bob Marley, Jamaican reggae, like, again, kind of brought Jamaican culture to the forefront. And I think, to Scott's point, much more worldwide for reggae and Jamaican culture in general. Fused elements of reggae, ska, and rock steady, and was renowned for his distinctive vocal and songwriting. And we all know a Bob Marley song. That just is.
If you were able to measure recognition, let's say it had a weight, do you think that Bob Marley's worldwide recognition would weigh as much as Bob Barker's U.S. recognition, though?
Yes. I do. Like, if you go outside of this country and people that grew up in our time frame, they might, the likelihood of them knowing Bob Barker is not nearly as high as the likelihood of them knowing Bob Marley. If you are going just off recognition alone, Bob Marley is a more widely known person. And I don't think it's even that close.
Yeah,
All right.
I would probably agree with that.
Well, let's put it to a vote then.
Yeah.
Dan, you first.
No.
Fine, I'll go first. I'm voting Bob Barker. I think I disagree. I think there are certainly parts of the world where Bob Marley would be known and recognized, certainly. But I think in the grand scheme of things, I think the draw and the affection that we have for Bob Barker here in the U.S. is stronger than the overall affection that people have for Bob Marley. The awareness might be there, but the care is not the same. And so I think for me, it's Bob. And I know that's not necessarily what I asked earlier, but that's how I'm weighing it and measuring it. And so for me, it's Bob Barker.
What do you think, Dan?
In hopes that his estate will give me a brand new car.
I don't need a new car. Just give me a trip to Tahiti.
I got to disagree with you, Scott, because I think that there are more people that love not only the music that Bob Marley made, but the kind of person he was and the life he lived. Um, I think that there are more people that love Bob Marley ferociously. Um, that being said, I am acknowledging that, and this is the most selfish vote that I have ever done. I know that Bob Marley has had a larger cultural impact. I know that Bob Marley has reached more ears than Bob Barker, but damn it, Bob Barker is my childhood, and um, very closely aligned with Bob Barker on his views on animals and some of the stances that he took to use his platform to protect animals speaks to me. So my vote, selfishly, is going for Bob Barker.
Yeah, I think not to get back into comedy or anything, but I did Google Bob Marley as we're talking, and I agree. I think that Bob Marley I think may be more recognizable worldwide, but according to Google, people also ask what caused the death of Bob Marley. How many baby mamas does Bob Marley have? What did Bob Marley say before he died? How many illegitimate children does he have? Who shot him? How many children did Bob Marley father? Uh, did Bob Marley have 13 kids? It feels like you all aren't laughing the same way that I was laughing reading some of these questions.
I just want to know why people are making these assumptions about Bob Marley.
I mean, the answer was yes for most of them.
Yeah, he definitely did have a bunch
He
of
had
children.
7, I believe, different mothers of his children that we're aware of. However,
He also, the cause of death was melanoma.
mhm. However, it's Bob Barker, bitch. Like you can't.
The Price is Right.
It's just really hard for me to because I agree. Um, for me as a child, Bob Barker was definitely more involved in my childhood than Bob Marley was. Um, again, as much as we know, everybody knows a Bob Marley song. Everybody knows who Bob Marley is. We all know that he shot the sheriff, but
But he did not shoot the deputy.
so, but Bob Barker was just, he's done, I feel like, more good taking the spay and neuter out of the conversation. How many people did he distract from doing something terrible by just having prices right on? You know what I mean? Like that, he's helped to fill time at hospitals and at nursing homes for a very long time. So
He's been a comforting voice for generations.
many, many,
Yeah.
many, many years. So Bob Barker gets my vote as well. Doesn't matter.
And
He does move on.
if you were to, this is my last point that I'm going to make about Bob Barker, but if you took The Price is Right back when it initially aired and you made somehow through time travel shenanigans Drew Carey the host of that show back then, it would have never lasted.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That show happened because of Bob Barker.
See, I don't know about all that.
I think that
You
Drew
guys
Carey
saying
is,
that Price is Right sounds outlandish and that they wouldn't get made today, but I mean, have you seen the sheer number of game shows that exist today, and like
No.
new ones coming out all the time? Like, I think Price is Right would have been made. Would it be successful today? Again, we have 700 channels. I don't know.
yeah.
I'm saying literally The Price is Right would have not gotten greenlit without Bob Barker as the host. The executive that signed off on that show being created said that he would do it only if Bob Barker was the host.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
fair enough.
and I think that Dan, that was almost the exact same point that I made earlier, which is that he had a bigger impact. If it wasn't for him, I don't think that would have happened. At least not the same way. Maybe it got greenlit, but didn't run for more than a couple seasons. But
Exactly.
Bob Barker is that good. Special shout out though to Bob Marley. Again, still I think a lot of love for Bob Marley from all 3 co-hosts here.
Yep.
And that gets us into our last matchup. What's our last matchup, Scope?
Bob Ross versus Bob Vila.
Ooh, the 2 do it with your hands personalities. Bob Vila, famous. I have started following him on Instagram, by the way.
Yeah, how's that going?
He posts. He
Have you
posts.
fixed anything in your house based on
This
the,
is not my house. But Bob
okay,
Vila,
fair enough.
great personality, very much, again, going back to inspirational for people, to especially people that wanted to be handy.
Handsy?
No, handy.
No, not the same. Okay.
Bob Ross, though, as much as I do appreciate Bob Vila, I don't think there's an easier choice to make on this bracket than anything Bob Ross is in up to this point. Like, it's Bob Ross,
You
y'all.
that bastion of positivity that Bob Ross is.
I mean, honestly, he taught me how to be optimistic, and that took a lot.
He was the happy little trees.
Yes, very
He
much
planted
so.
the happy little trees in your soul.
He was the Johnny Appleseed of happy little trees, you know?
Would it be fair to say, I might be going out on a stupid limb here, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Hold on,
Would
let
it
me
be
get my
fair to
saw.
say that AMSR
ASMR.
wouldn't have happened without Bob Ross?
The stupid branch got stupider because he got the letters in the wrong order.
I did. Yeah, I told you I was going out on a stupid branch. But you guys know what I'm saying.
I do.
And realistically, like, he had such a soft, soothing voice, and that compounds in my brain with the fact that he was a drill sergeant. It's like it's crazy, the life that Bob Ross lived.
I truly, and I'm making this up as I say it, but I 100% believe this. If
It's
there
headcanon
was
for you.
no religion, Bob Ross would be made into a religion, and it would take over the majority of the world. Like, just his sayings and his teachings and his, his ability to be that happy little voice for many people. What is the famous story? I think somebody wrote him a letter. A child wrote him a letter just saying how much he loved watching him paint and talk, and he was just, and I think requested some kind of painting, and he just was like, well, this one's for you, and actually put it out.
I think you're mixing up two.
No,
I think I know
you're
the two you're
thinking-
mixing up.
You're thinking of
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers,
and the
who also
goldfish.
got a letter, but I'm 99% certain.
The one you're thinking about, Bob Ross got a letter from a viewer that was colorblind.
That's what it is.
And wanted to, and basically saying, I love what you're talking about, but I can't fully relate because I can't see the colors. So then he proceeded to do an episode talking about that letter and then painted in grayscale. Painted a grayscale portrait. I don't know of what, I couldn't tell you, but yeah, I mean, again, it is that Mr. Rogers level of appreciating your fellow human and respect and ensuring people have dignity for who they are. That Bob Ross did embrace in that moment.
Yeah.
And it also, like, really well known for doing landscapes. But how many times have I been with you two chuckle fucks somewhere out in the wilderness of this beautiful state and have said that looks like a Bob Ross painting?
I think you said it about 38 times when we went camping a couple months ago.
Yeah. But on the other hand, we also have Bob Vila, who had a huge impact, and speaking selfishly of me, but, This Old House and Home Again, he was America's handyman. Every bit as nice. I say was. Pretty sure he's still alive.
I mean, he is, but he's not super active. But I think, again, as a homeowner who's used YouTube on numerous occasions to fix many things around the house,
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but think that those people who are, they're like, oh, my dishwasher's broken. Not only am I going to fix it, I'm going to record myself fixing it and tell people how I'm doing it. I mean, there's some Bob Vila inspiration there. Like, I can't help but think that I see him on TikTok all the time. I watched one earlier where a guy took out a normal rectangular door frame and turned it into an arched doorway instead. And he was a little more vulgar than Bob Vila. He was a little more crass than Bob Vila, but he still showed his steps. He showed his work, and I can't say that I could necessarily replicate his work, but he taught how to do it. And I think Bob Vila was the first. I don't know about the first. He was a cultural icon in that movement, in making home repair a form of entertainment, and then and educational at the same time.
Yeah. And, I used to love to sit down, and watch him go through and talk about, the building of a house, or, how to repair, hardwood floors.
We are such
Trying to
fucking
stash away,
cisgendered white men.
hey, look, if you have hardwood floors and you want to update them, right? That information and that know-how is valuable no matter who you are, right? Because you can pay a company to come in and do it, or you can roll your sleeves up and do it the Bob Vila way and save yourself a ton of money.
Yeah, his contributions to society were much more practical than Bob Ross's, I would say.
Yeah, but I'm on the Calm app website, and it has literally a list of the top 10 quotes from Bob Ross. And one of them is very poignant, Dan. Go out on a limb. That's where the fruit is.
The ARMS fruit.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with having a tree as a friend.
I just accidentally spelled arms. I just realized.
Look, I can't, to me, as much as I do appreciate and enjoy Bob Vila and 100% agree, kind of the dad energy, here's how you do things, here's how you learn. Bob Ross. It's Bob Ross.
Yeah, it's Bob Ross.
So vote for Bob Ross.
All right. Well, we went right into the votes. Scoot, who you voting for?
You really want to know?
Yeah.
It's also Bob Ross. Now your vote's irrelevant. I mean, look, I could talk about Bob Vila, sure, but yeah, it's Bob Ross. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I want the chia pet of his afro.
I just want his afro.
There's also, I have a Bob Ross board game that's pretty fun. And it's all about like the joys of painting. Bob Ross gets my vote. There are no mistakes, only happy little accidents.
It is a clean sweep for Bob Ross. Bob Vila, we respect the fuck out of you.
Agreed.
All right, let's wrap this up before Dan has a happy little accident in his pants. That gets us to our what? It can't be entitled 8.
No,
they're not entitled.
A different one.
Yeah.
Oh,
enigmatic.
Enigmatic. I struggled with that word. Enigmatic 8. So what do we have on the west side of the bracket for our enigmatic 8? So next week we'll get through all 8. We're going to discuss all 4 divisions next week. So what do we have on? Let me change my wording. What do we have on the left side of the bracket, Dan?
I had it with West, but in the characters section we have SpongeBob versus Silent Bob. Going down into the personalities, we have Bob Barker versus Bob Ross. I am not looking forward to that.
That's the main event, y'all.
Oh my gosh, that's so tough.
Yeah. And then on the east side, what do we got?
We got Bob Hope. Bob Hope. I'm just gonna say everybody's name like that.
You should.
Versus Bob Saget. And then that's our actors section, and then Bob Evans versus Bob Sled in the other
ridiculous
category
division.
Now here's the thing.
I love that in the other category there were people and none of them prevailed. They were all not by a restaurant and a child's plaything.
Now, hold on.
But anyway,
I do want to say, like, because I'm just sitting here imagining, and I apologize. I know we're going a little long here, but I'm just imagining telling somebody, like telling Bob Hope or fucking Bob Newhart, or we're going to go with Bob Hope. You're in a tournament to determine the best Bob, and the other people or things that are in that are a sponge, a dude in a trench coat who doesn't talk, fucking Bob Barker, yeah, that one from The Price is Right, Bob Ross, yeah, that one who paints, a bobsled. So we're not sure who's going to come out on top, but those are who you're up against, Mr. Hope.
I like the idea of someone being like, so what's your podcast about? Oh, we debate things and we decide them like, best Bobs, like Bob Evans, the restaurant versus bobsled. Excuse me, what?
Yeah, check it out. Check it out next week.
But that's what we are. That's what we are. That's who we are. And as usual, we thank you for listening for whatever reason you decide to do so. It's a questionable decision, but we thank you for doing it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. What else? What else we got?
Thank Aaron O'Donnell from Aaron O'Donnell's music, what you hear at the beginning and ending of our episodes.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
For being a friend. Find us on all the socials.
Yes.
Is that what you were going for, Dan?
That's what I was
That's kind of
gonna
what I
say.
thought Matt was going to go for, but that's okay. Somebody want to finish it out?
Well, for all of us here at Bracketologies, always.
That's not what I meant.
Oh,
All the socials at Bracketology, BRACKETALLOGY. We're on the TikToks, we're on the YouTubes, we're on the Facebooks, we're on the Twitters, we're on all of them.
and
Like, follow, and subscribe.
There you
and
go.
as always, spay and neuter your pets. Thanks, everybody. That's Scott.
I'm Scott.
I'm Matt.
That's Dan.
And I'm Dan.
From all of us here at Bracketology, spay and neuter your pets. Bye-bye.
Look, he should have learned the first time he drank antifreeze, okay?
That's why he had the issues, is because he drank the antifreeze store, huh?
Well, he shouldn't have broken the garage then.
Ask her if she wants a turtle. What about a turtle?
Yeah,
That I feel like is going to happen at some point because Peyton
A
loves
turtle?
turtles.
Yeah.
there you go. Get a turtle.
Look at him, Garrett. First you have the turtle.
There's also the
No more
possibility.
pets. We've talked about this already,
What about
especially
beaver?
cats. We have talked about the fact that when the cats that we have are gone, we will never have cats again.
I changed my mind.
You cannot change. I have not changed my mind.
Bummer.
But cats are so nice.
The cold
And
open of
Mac-
this episode is just going to be me arguing with my wife about pets.
Are you?
He just started recording a couple seconds ago.
Mac is so cute. They have
Mac
this
is
cat,
so cute.
and it's just
No
this
cat
little.
will ever be as cute as Mac, and that's why we'll never have another one.
Well, I mean, you are wrong. I will fight you on that.
Mac
one.
does not have rabies.
He has a skin condition.
He has a skin condition. He has allergies, and he keeps eating the dog's food.
He did
that
try
he's
to eat
allergic to.
Oliver's food when I was down there.
Bye, Dennis.
Are they neutered?
Yes.
Matt's neutered.
Sorry.
I'm neutered.
Yeah, I think you should get Highland cows.
I should
No.
have started recording that. Like,
Yeah, no, we got to start
4
over now.
minutes
That,
earlier.
that could have been a good cold open, but we
I
were
know.
in mid conversation.
All right, you ready?
Sure.
Okay.